The alien girl's chain scraped against the wet platform as laughter echoed through the market. Her legs, half flesh, half broken metal, hung useless beneath her. The crowd pressed closer, some throwing refuse, others just staring with that particular cruelty reserved for the defective. Then the dog moved. Old, scarred, missing half an ear. The mutt planted itself between her and the mob. Lips pulled back, revealing cracked teeth. Its growl was low, primal, a sound that remembered when Earth's wolves hunted in packs. Kael pulled his daughter closer, her small fingers gripping his worn jacket. She looked up at him with those impossibly clear eyes, and he realized she was crying. "Papa," she whispered. "Why is no one helping her?" He knelt beside Maya, rain dripping from his matted hair, and spoke the words that would change everything. "Because mercy is a human disease, little star, and we're about to infect this whole damn galaxy." The market district of Threshold Station existed in perpetual twilight, neon signs bleeding, colors into the rain, metal platforms slick with water, and worse things. Kael had lived here 3 years now, ever since the transport accident that took his wife, and he'd learned to keep his head down. Humans weren't wanted on Threshold. They were tolerated the way you tolerate rust, inevitable, irritating, beneath notice. He'd brought Maya to see the Saturday markets because she'd been cooped up in their one-room hab all week while he worked double shifts scrubbing out alien waste systems. The glamorous life of a human janitor on a wreck station. She deserved better. But better wasn't something you could scavenge from trash heaps. "Stay close," he murmured, guiding her through the crowd of species he still couldn't name after 3 years. Tall ones with 4 arms, crystalline beings that chimed when they moved, slug-like creatures that left trails of bioluminescent slime. All of them so much more than humans, faster, stronger, smarter by their own measures. That's when he heard the laughter. Not joy laughter, the other kind. The kind that feeds on pain. Maya heard it too. Her hand tightened in his. The crowd had formed a semicircle near the slave auction. Platforms, technically indentured labor exchanges, but Kael had been born on Earth before the coalition, and he knew what slavery looked like regardless of the paperwork. The Vrex merchant was a towering mantis-like creature, mandibles clicking with amusement as it gestured to its merchandise. "Damaged goods," it announced in the trade language, voice translator making it sound tinny and cruel. "Defective manufacturing. But she still has some use, yes? Kitchen work perhaps, cleaning, she cannot run away." More laughter. Kael felt his stomach turn. He shouldn't look. He'd learned that lesson 100 times. Don't look at the suffering you can't fix. Don't let Maya see things that will give her nightmares. Don't. Maya broke free from his hand and pushed through the crowd. He lunged after her, shoving past a Crithian trader who hissed indignantly. By the time he caught her, she was already at the front of the crowd, staring up at the platform. At the girl. She looked almost human. Pretty face, delicate features, long dark hair matted with rain and grime. Her eyes were too large, pupils vertical like a cat's, and faint luminescent veins traced beneath her skin. But in the dim light, you might miss those details. You might think she was just a girl, maybe 16 or 17 standard years, wearing rags that had once been expensive, until you saw her legs. The left one was organic but twisted, the knee bent wrong, the foot clubbed and useless. The right was cybernetic from mid-thigh down, but the machinery was ancient, sparking, corroded, half the servos exposed and non-functional. Both legs were chained to a heavy post, though the chain seemed like cruel irony. She couldn't run. She couldn't even stand properly. She sat in the rain, head bowed, hair hanging like a curtain over her face. Maya's small voice cut through the laughter. "Papa, she's hurt." "I know, little star." He tried to pull her back. "We need to go. Why won't anyone help her?" A Vrex guard, 8 feet of armored chitin and mandibles, turned to look down at them. Its compound eyes reflected them 1,000 times. "Human," it clicked, voice dripping contempt. "Control your spawn." Kael's jaw tightened. "We're leaving." But Maya wasn't moving. She was staring at the girl on the platform, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Papa, please." That's when he saw the dog, scraggly thing, part German shepherd by the look of it, but mixed with God knew what else over generations of breeding on colony worlds. It was soaked, ribs showing, missing half its left ear, and it had positioned itself at the base of the platform, between the chained girl and the jeering crowd. Its growl was a sound from Earth's ancient memory, The Vrex merchant noticed. And now the human parasites bring their parasites. Guards, remove that animal before. The dog lunged. Not at anyone, just forward, snapping at air, making the front row of the crowd stumble back. The message was clear. Come closer and find out what these teeth can do. Kill it, the merchant shrieked. No! Maya's scream was pure anguish. Time crystallized. Kael saw the guard raising its neural pike. Saw Maya breaking from his grip, running toward the dog. Saw the alien girl on the platform lift her head for the first time. Those strange vertical pupil eyes widening as she understood what was about to happen. Saw the exact moment his quiet life ended. He moved. Not fast, humans weren't fast. Not compared to Vrex or Crithians or any of the other species that had beaten them to the stars. But he moved with absolute commitment, throwing himself between the guard and his daughter, between the pike and the dog. The neural shock hit him square in the chest. Pain exploded through every nerve. His muscles locked. He hit the wet platform hard, tasting blood and metal. Somewhere far away, Maya was screaming. The dog was barking. The crowd was roaring with approval or outrage, he couldn't tell which. Through blurred vision, he saw the alien girl staring at him. Her lips moved. He couldn't hear over the ringing in his ears, but he could read the words. Why? He wanted to answer. Wanted to tell her that he'd asked himself the same question every day since his wife died. Why keep going? Why care? Why not just let the galaxy's cruelty wash over him until he was as numb and cold as the metal beneath him? But Maya was crying and the dog was still growling. And this broken alien girl was still chained in the rain and... Because, he gasped, forcing words through his shocked lungs. Someone has to. They threw him in a holding cell for 6 hours. Maya sat beside him the whole time, small hand clutching his, her face tear-streaked and terrified. The cell was barely large enough for one adult, let alone two, and it smelled like industrial cleaner and something Kael didn't want to identify. Maya had curled against his side, and he'd wrapped his arms around her even though everything still hurt from the neural pike. I'm sorry, Papa, she whispered for the 100th time. Shh, not your fault, little star. The dog... Probably fine. Dogs are survivors. He hoped he wasn't lying. Tougher than humans, most of them. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what about the girl? Kael closed his eyes. He'd been trying not to think about that. I don't know. They're going to hurt her more. Because of us. Maybe or maybe, he trailed off. There was no maybe. The galaxy didn't work that way. Kindness was punished. Weakness was exploited. Hope was a luxury reserved for species that could afford it. Humans couldn't afford it. The cell door opened. A human administrator, middle-aged, tired, wearing the gray uniform that marked him as station employee rather than resident, stood in the entrance. He looked at Kael with a mixture of pity and exasperation. Thorn, he said. What the hell were you thinking? Martinez. Kael didn't move, keeping Maya sheltered. Good to see you too. You assaulted a Vrex merchant. I got in the way of his guard. Not the same thing. You disrupted a legal transaction. Caused a public disturbance. Interfered with station commerce. Martinez rubbed his face. The Vrex are demanding you be terminated. As in executed. As in spaced without a suit. Maya whimpered. Kael held her tighter. But Martinez continued, you're lucky. The girl, the damaged one? She's Sireni. That makes this complicated. Sireni, Kael repeated. The name meant nothing to him. They used to be something. Important. Before the Vrex conquered their system, the Coalition has regulations about Sireni. They're a protected species. Technically, even though most of them are dead or enslaved now, Martinez leaned against the doorframe. The merchant is being fined for illegal display of a protected species in distress. They have to release her to Coalition medical services. Something in Kael's chest loosened slightly. So she's free? Free is a strong word. She's damaged, Kael. Disabled. Even if they repair her legs, which they won't, because medical care costs money and the Coalition doesn't spend money on charity cases. Where's she going to go? No family, no resources. No species looking out for her. Martinez's expression was carefully neutral. She'll end up dead in an alley within a week. If she's lucky. Maya stirred. We could help her. No, Martinez said immediately. Absolutely not. Kael, you can barely feed yourself and your daughter. You can't take on... We have to. Maya pulled away from her father, standing up on shaky legs to face Martinez. At 7 years old, she barely reached the administrator's waist, but her voice was fierce. You said no one else will help her. So we have to. Maya. She's hurt and alone, and everyone laughed at her, and... Her words dissolved into sobs. Kael stood, joints protesting. He put his hand on Maya's shoulder, looked at Martinez. Where is she? Don't do this. Where? Martinez sighed. Medical Bay 7. But Kael, listen to me. If you do this, if you take responsibility for a protected species member, you become liable for her care, her debts, her actions. If she dies, they'll blame you. If she causes problems, they'll blame you. You'll be painting a target on your back. Seems like I already did that, Kael said quietly. At least this way it'll mean something. Medical Bay 7 was a glorified storage closet with the exam table. The alien girl, the Sirini, sat on the table's edge, still wearing the same wet rags, her damaged legs dangling uselessly. A medical drone had attached a temporary IV to her arm, probably just keeping her hydrated. That was the extent of her medical care. She looked up when they entered. Those cat-like eyes went wide. You, she breathed. Us, Kael agreed. He glanced at Maya, who was peeking around his legs. I'm Kael, this is my daughter Maya, we wanted to make sure you were okay. Her laugh was bitter. Okay? Poor choice of words. He stepped closer, hands raised to show he meant no harm. What's your name? She hesitated, looked at Maya, looked back at him. Lysara. Though my name hasn't mattered for a long time. It matters, Maya said softly. She moved around her father, approaching the table slowly, like Lysara was a wounded animal. Lysara, that's pretty. Pretty won't make me walk. No, Kael said. But maybe I can. Both females stared at him. He explained, I'm a mechanic. Was a mechanic before, well, these days I clean toilets for the station, but I still know my way around machinery. Your leg, the cybernetic one, it's not beyond repair. Just neglected. Wrong parts, corroded connections, probably hasn't been maintained in years. The Vrex don't waste resources on defective merchandise, Lysara said hollowly. No, they wouldn't. Kael studied the exposed servos, the sparking neural interface. But I would. If you'll let me. She stared at him for a long moment. Why? You keep asking that. Because it makes no sense. Your species, humans, you're weak. Bottom of the ladder. You have nothing. And you want to help me? An alien? A broken alien who can't even repay you? Her voice cracked. It's not logical. It's not smart. Papa's not always smart, Maya offered. But he's always kind. Kael felt his throat tighten. He knelt so he was closer to Lysara's eye level. I can't explain it in a way that'll satisfy you. Yes, we're poor. Yes, helping you is gonna make our lives harder. But my daughter asked me why no one was helping you, and he shrugged. I didn't have a good answer. So here we are. Tears were forming in Lysara's strange eyes. I don't understand. Neither do I most days. He stood, wincing at the lingering pain from the neural pike. But I know a place we can stay. It's not much, barely enough space for 2. Definitely not enough for 3, but it's dry and warm. And I know where to get parts. Black market stuff, but functional. They'll punish you, Lysara whispered. For taking me. For helping me. Humans are already... Yeah, Kael smiled, and it was tired and sad and true. But we're used to it. Maya reached up and took Lysara's hand, the one without the IV. Will you come home with us? The Sirini girl looked down at the small human child holding her hand. At the scarred human man who'd taken a neural pike for a stranger. At the absurdity and impossibility of mercy in a galaxy that had none. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll come home. They were halfway to the hab block when they found the dog. It was lying in a service alley between 2 merchant stalls, ribs heaving, blood matting its fur. The guard had hit it with something after. Kael had gone down, probably another neural pike, maybe worse. Maya saw it first. Puppy. She ran before Kael could stop her, dropping to her knees in the filthy alley water beside the animal. The dog's eyes opened, just slits, and it managed a weak tail wag. Oh no, oh no, oh no, Maya was crying, hands hovering over the dog's body, afraid to touch, afraid to hurt it more. Kael and Lysara caught up. The Sirini girl moved slowly, one hand on the wall for support, her damaged legs making each step an obvious effort, but she didn't complain. She just looked down at the dog and said quietly, "He protected me." "Yeah," Kael knelt beside Maya. "He did." The dog looked at him, made a soft whining sound. "Okay," Kael said, making a decision he couldn't afford. "Okay, buddy. You're coming too." He was gentle as he could be, sliding his arms under the dog's body, lifting. The animal whimpered but didn't snap or struggle. Maya helped support its head. Lysara kept one hand on Kael's shoulder, using him for balance as they made their way through the station corridors. They must have looked absurd, pathetic. A limping alien girl, a small human child, a broke janitor, carrying a half-dead dog through the neon-lit belly of a station that despised them all. People stared. Some laughed. Most just looked away, uncomfortable with the display of suffering. No one helped. By the time they reached Kael's hab, a single room barely 10 feet square, with a mattress on the floor, a makeshift kitchenette, and a tiny bathroom cubicle, all four of them were exhausted. Kael laid the dog on the mattress. Maya immediately curled up next to it, small hand on its side, feeling it breathe. Lysara stood in the doorway, staring at the cramped space. "This is where you live?" "Yeah. It's small." "Yeah. There's no room for 4. "No," Kael agreed. "There isn't, but we'll make it work anyway." She looked at him. Really looked at him. This human who had nothing and was willing to share it. This father who'd taught his daughter mercy in a galaxy built on cruelty. "You're insane," she whispered. "Probably." He found a blanket, thin, recycled but clean, and held it out to her. "But you're here anyway." Lysara took the blanket, sat carefully on the floor, her damaged legs folding awkwardly beneath her. Maya was already half asleep, nestled against the dog. The dog was breathing steadier now, some color returning to its gums. Kael sat with his back against the wall, looked at his suddenly larger family, and thought, this is going to be a disaster. But Maya was smiling in her sleep, and Lysara was crying quietly, clutching the blanket like it was precious, and the dog was alive. So maybe disasters weren't always bad things. The dog survived. 3 days of careful feeding, clean water and antibiotics that cost Kael 2 weeks' wages on the black market, but it survived. Maya named it Ash because of its gray fur, and Ash took to her immediately, following her around the tiny hab whenever it could stand, lying with its head in her lap when it couldn't. Lysara was harder to heal. Not physically, well, yes, physically, but that was a different problem. Emotionally, she was a fortress. She barely spoke those first days, just sat in the corner watching them with those cat-like eyes, waiting for the betrayal she was certain would come. Kael gave her space, kept working his shifts, came home exhausted, shared their meager food without comment. Maya tried to engage her in conversation, in games, in the 1,000 small kindnesses children excel at. Slowly, carefully, Lysara began to thaw. It was on the 5th night, while Kael was examining her cybernetic leg, that she finally told them her story. "I was beautiful once," she said quietly, staring at the ceiling. "By Sireni standards, our species, we were prized for our appearance, our grace. We were dancers, artists, entertainers for the coalition. Wealthy families would bid for contracts with Sireni performers. Kael kept working, removing a corroded servo. What happened? The war. The Vrex wanted our system, rich in rare minerals, perfect location for trade routes. The coalition abandoned us, said we were not strategically significant." Her voice was hollow. "The Vrex conquered us in 3 months. Maya was sitting nearby, petting Ash, listening intently. They killed most of us," Lysara continued. "The ones who fought back. The ones who were too old or too young to be useful. The rest, they enslaved. Put us to work in their mines, their factories." She paused. "I was 15. They sent me to a weapons testing facility." Kael's hands stilled. "There was an accident. An explosion. 17 workers died. I survived, but..." She gestured to her legs. "My left leg was crushed. My right leg had to be amputated. The Vrex gave me the cheapest cybernetic they could find, didn't even bother to fit it properly. And then they discovered that I was useless for heavy labor. Couldn't stand for long shifts. Couldn't run when the overseers wanted speed. So they sold you," Kael said quietly. "They tried. But who wants damaged goods? I've been sold 4 times in 3 years. Each owner returns me, demands a refund, says I'm defective. The Vrex merchant you saw, that was attempt number 5. She laughed. But there was no humor in it. I was starting to hope they'd just kill me. It would be easier than this. Maya had tears running down her cheeks. She crawled over to Lysara, climbed into her lap, careful of the damaged legs, and hugged her. Lysara froze, stared down at the small human child clinging to her. "You're not defective," Maya whispered. "You're hurt. That's different." "Is it?" "Yes." Maya pulled back enough to look up at her. "Defective means broken forever. Hurt means you can heal. Papa's gonna fix your leg, and you're gonna stay with us, and we're gonna be a family." "Maya," Lysara breathed. We're not the same species. I can't, don't care." Maya's expression was fierce. "You're my sister now." Lysara looked at Kael, eyes wide, seeking some kind of, permission? Explanation. He just smiled. "She's right, about the family part. We're not much, but we're yours if you want us." "Why?" It was almost a sob. "Why would you? After everything my species did to humans. The way we looked down on you. Called you primitive, weak." "You didn't do that," Kael interrupted gently. "Some Serini might have. Hell, most aliens probably did. But you were too busy surviving. Just like us." He went back to working on her leg. "Besides, holding grudges takes energy I don't have. Rather spend it on fixing things." "You can't fix the galaxy." "No," he agreed, seating a new servo into place. "But I can fix this leg, and that's a start." 2 weeks later, Lysara took her first real steps. Kael had worked miracles with salvage and stolen parts, rebuilding the cybernetic from the ground up. The neural interface was properly calibrated now. The servos were newer. The power cells were military grade, liberated from a scrapyard by a contact who owed Kael a favor. The organic leg was harder. He couldn't fix the twisted bones, the malformed joints, but he made her a brace, custom-fitted from polymer scraps, that stabilized the knee and supported her weight. She still limped. She still moved slowly. But she could walk without support, could stand without agony, could, for the first time in 3 years, move through the world with something resembling dignity. Maya cheered when Lysara crossed the tiny heb without holding the wall. Ash barked, still raspy from its injuries but enthusiastic. Kael just nodded, satisfied with his work. Lysara stood in the center of the room, weight balanced carefully on both legs, and wept. "Hey," Kael said, moving to support her. "What's wrong? Did I miscalibrate something? Is it painful?" "No," she sobbed. "No, I haven't stood on my own in years. I forgot what it felt like. To be upright, to look people in the eye instead of always looking up from the ground." Maya hugged her legs, carefully mindful of the repairs. "You look tall." "I look human," Lysara said, and then stopped. "I know what you mean," Kael squeezed her shoulder. "And you're right, you do." She looked at him, eyes shining. "My own people gave up on me, called me worthless, threw me away like trash. But you, a human, a species everyone says is weak and stupid, you gave me back my legs." Her voice broke. "You gave me back my life." "Nah," Kael smiled. "You never lost it. You just needed someone to remind you it was there." That night, while Maya and Ash slept, Lysara sat with Kael near the tiny window that looked out over the station's lower levels. Neon lights flickered. Rain streaked the glass. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Sure." "Your wife." "Maya's mother."
"How did she die?"
Kael was quiet for a long moment. "Transport accident. We were moving between stations looking for better work. The ship had a faulty life support system. Human ships always do. Because we can't afford the good ones. 40 people died. I was in the cargo bay fixing a leak when it happened. Maya was with me. My wife," he swallowed. "She was in the passenger section." "I'm sorry." "Me too." He stared out at the rain. "For a long time I was angry. At the ship's owners, at the coalition for not regulating transport safety, at the whole damn galaxy for treating humans like we don't matter. But anger's exhausting, and I had Maya to take care of. So I let it go." "How?" "By deciding that every time I see someone hurting, really hurting, the way my wife must have hurt, the way you were hurting in that market, I'm going to help if I can. Won't change the galaxy, won't bring her back, but it means her death wasn't for nothing, because it taught me that pain is pain no matter what species feels it. And kindness is kindness." Lysara reached over and took his hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, the skin faintly luminescent in the dark. "You're the best person I've ever met. I'm really not. You are to me." She squeezed his hand. And to Maya and to that dog. You're saving lives, Kael. Even if it's one at a time. Then that's enough, he said. Has to be. They sat together in comfortable silence. Two broken people who'd found something like peace in the wreckage. The problem with hope is that it makes you visible. For 3 months they lived in careful balance. Kael worked his shifts. Maya went to the station's minimal human school. Lysara helped around the hab, cooking, cleaning. The 1,000 small tasks that kept their tiny household running. Ash recovered fully, becoming Maya's constant shadow and guardian. They were almost happy. That's when the authorities noticed. It started with an inspection. Standard procedure, they said, just checking that. Kael was properly caring for his registered, dependent alien. The inspector was a Vrex, all clicking mandibles and compound eyes, and it looked around the cramped hab with obvious disdain. Inadequate space, it noted on its datapad. Insufficient resources. The Sirene appears malnourished. She's healthy, Kael protested. Check her medical readings. The inspector did. Frowned as much as a Vrex could frown. Explain the cybernetic enhancements. I repaired her leg. With what authorization? Kael's stomach dropped. She needed modifications to registered alien dependents. Require official approval and licensed technicians. You are neither licensed nor authorized. The inspector clicked its mandibles. This is a violation of Section 47, Subsection 12 of the Coalition Dependent Care Regulations. You will report to station authority within 3 cycles for review. After it left, Lysara sank onto the mattress, face pale. They're going to take me away, Kael said firmly. They're not. You broke their laws for me. They'll use this as an excuse to remove me from your care. Reassign me to a facility. Or worse, send me back to the Vrex. Not happening. Kael. I said not happening. He was pacing now, mind working. There has to be a loophole. Something in the regulations. Maybe if we... There's no loophole. Lysara's voice was hollow. I've been through this system. They don't care about me. They care about rules and procedures. And making sure humans don't get ideas above their station. Maya sat beside Lysara, taking her hand. We won't let them take you. You can't stop them, sweetness. Papa can. Maya looked at her father with absolute faith. Papa fixes things. Kael wished he deserved that faith. But looking at his daughter, at Lysara, at the dog curled at their feet, looking at this impossible family he'd built from scraps and stubbornness, he knew he had to try. Okay, he said. Okay, we can't fight the system directly, but maybe we can make it irrelevant. How? He smiled, and it was slightly wild. We leave. Leaving wasn't as simple as walking away. Kael had debts to the station, everyone did. Food, water, air, they all cost money, and the station kept careful track of who owed what. Leaving without clearance meant being flagged as a fugitive, which meant being hunted by coalition security. And Kael had to think about Maya, about Lysara, about keeping them safe. But he also had contacts. 3 years of fixing things for people, of keeping his head down and his mouth shut, had earned him a network of favors. He called them all in. Martinez got them fake transit passes, a Crithian mechanic who, Kael had helped hide a black market parts operation, provided shuttle access. A human doctor, one of the few on the station, made sure. Lysara's medical records were accidentally corrupted, making it harder to track her. The hardest part was the timing. They had to leave before the review hearing, but after Kael got his final payment. Had to look casual, not fleeing. Had to get 4 beings, 2 human, 1 Sirene, 1 dog, off a heavily monitored station without raising alarms. The night before they planned to leave, Ash got sick. Not regular sick, poisoned. Someone had left meat laced with toxins in the alley where Ash liked to scavenge. The dog collapsed an hour after eating, seizing foam at its mouth. Maya was hysterical. Lysara tried to stabilize Ash while Kael ran for the human doctor. By the time they got back to the hab, Ash was barely breathing. I don't have the antidote, the doctor said grimly. This is military-grade poison. Black market stuff, expensive. How much? Kael demanded. More than you have. And even if you could afford it, getting it would take days. The dog won't last that long. No. Maya was sobbing, clutching Ash's head. Please, please don't let him die. Please, Papa. Kael looked at Lysara, at the dog who'd protected her in the market, at his daughter's breaking heart. At the choice he'd known he'd have to make eventually. There's another option, he said quietly. The doctor raised an eyebrow. You planning something illegal? Extremely. Good, tell me what you need. The station's medical storage facility was supposed to be secure. Biometric locks, automated defenses, constant monitoring. Supposed to be impossible to breach without proper authorization. But Kael had spent 3 years maintaining the station systems. He knew where the blind spots were, where the sensors failed, where a determined human could slip through cracks that shouldn't exist. He went alone, wouldn't risk anyone else. Martinez created a distraction, a malfunction, in the waste systems that required immediate attention, pulling guards away. Kael had a 20-minute window. He made it in 12. The antidote was in a refrigerated unit, clearly labeled, waiting for legitimate medical emergencies. Kael grabbed 3 vials, 1 for Ash, 2 as insurance, and was back out before alarms could trigger. He ran through service corridors, heart hammering, expecting to be caught at every turn. Made it back to the hab with 6 minutes to spare. Lysara administered the antidote with steady hands, her medical knowledge from her pre-slavery life returning. They waited, watching Ash's breathing, counting seconds. After 10 minutes, the dog's eyes opened. After 20, it licked Maya's face. After an hour, it was sleeping peacefully, vitals stable. Maya threw her arms around her father. You saved him. Yeah. Kael was shaking with adrenaline and relief. Yeah, I did. This changes things, Lysara said quietly. They'll know someone stole medical supplies. They'll investigate. I know. He'd known from the moment he made the decision. Which means we leave tonight, now, before they connect it to me. They packed what little they had. Clothes, food, Maya's stuffed rabbit, the medical records Lysara would need. Everything else was left behind. Because you can't carry a life when you're running for another one. At 0300 station time, 4 fugitives slipped out of Hab Unit 47C and into the service corridors. A limping alien girl with luminescent veins, a small human child carrying a stuffed rabbit, a scarred dog walking on unsteady legs, a human man who'd broken every rule that mattered. The shuttle was waiting. Martinez was there, looking tired and worried. You're insane, he told Kael. I've been hearing that a lot lately. Where will you go? Human colony. Outer Rim. Place called New Haven. Ironic name, but they don't ask questions. Kael class. Ped Martinez's hand. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me, just take care of them. Martinez looked at Maya, at Lysara. And Kael? For what it's worth? I think your wife would be proud. Kael's throat tightened. Yeah, me too. They boarded the shuttle. The door sealed. The engines hummed to life. Through the viewport, Kael watched Threshold Station recede, all its neon lights and cold metal and casual cruelty shrinking, to a point and then vanishing. Maya sat with Ash's head in her lap. Lysara stared out at the stars, free for the first time in years. And Kael thought, this is what mercy costs. Everything you have and more. But looking at his family, his strange, impossible, chosen family, he knew he'd pay it again without hesitation. The shuttle ride should have taken 3 days. It took 8. Coalition security flagged their transit ID on the 2nd day. The shuttle's computer screamed warnings. Unauthorized departure. Fugitive alerts, immediate return required. Kael disabled the computer's communications and flew manual, navigating by dead reckoning through asteroid fields and dead zones where Coalition scanners couldn't track them. They ran out of food on day 5. Water on day 6. By day 7, Maya was lethargic. Lysara's cybernetic leg was sparking from lack of maintenance, and Ash was whimpering in distress. Kael pushed the shuttle's engines beyond safe limits, coaxing every last bit of speed from systems that should have failed days ago. His hands were steady on the controls even as his vision blurred from dehydration. Papa, Maya's voice was small. Are we going to die? No, little star. He didn't look back. Couldn't. We're almost there. You're lying. Yeah, sorry. But he wasn't lying. On day 8, as the shuttle's engines began their final death rattle, New Haven appeared on the horizon, a small planet, mostly desert, with a single domed settlement visible from orbit. Not much, but it was human space. Human rules. Human mercy. If they could make it. The shuttle lost power 3,000 meters up. Kael managed to angle their descent into a glide. Emergency systems screaming, heat shields failing, the ground rushing up faster than physics should allow. They hit hard. Kael's head cracked against the console. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the cabin. He tasted blood. Somewhere Maya was screaming. Lysara was shouting something in her native language. Ash was barking frantically. Out, Kael gasped, unbuckling. Everyone out now. The door mechanism was jammed. He kicked it. Once, twice. Third time his ankle cracked, but the door gave. Desert heat rushed in, dry, blistering, but breathable. He grabbed Maya, thrust her out. Run, get clear! Lysara was already moving. Cybernetic leg sparking, but functional. Pulling herself out of the wreckage. Ash jumped after her, limping but alive. Kael was halfway out when the power core exploded. The blast threw him 20 feet. He hit sand and rock, rolled, came up coughing. The shuttle was an inferno. Through the heat shimmer he saw Maya, Lysara, and Ash, alive, intact, staring at him with wide eyes. He laughed. Couldn't help it. They'd made it. Against all odds, all logic, all sense, they'd made it. Then he saw the vehicles approaching. 3 of them. Military grade. Coalition markings. They'd been tracked after all. Or maybe New Haven had sold them out. Either way, it was over. The vehicles stopped. Doors opened. Soldiers emerged, not human. Vrex, Crithians, others. All armed, all looking at the 4 fugitives with professional detachment. A Vrex officer approached. Stopped 10 feet away. Kael Thorne. You are under arrest for theft of Coalition property, unauthorized departure, destruction of registered dependent alien records, and endangering a minor. She's not property, Kael said, standing despite the pain. Her name is Lysara. She's a person. She is a registered dependent, which you stole. I freed. That is not your decision to make, human. Maya moved in front of her father, small arms spread wide. You can't have him. Child, move aside. No! Lysara stood as well, positioning herself beside Maya despite her unstable legs. If you want them, you go through me. You are damaged, the officer said dismissively. You cannot. Ash growled. Low dangerous. The sound of Earth's predators remembering what they were. The officer raised its weapon. Final warning. Surrender peacefully or what? Kael stepped forward, putting himself between the soldiers and his family. You'll shoot? A human? A disabled alien girl, a child, and a dog? Is that what the Coalition has become? So afraid of mercy that you'll murder it where you find it? You broke the law. I saved a life. She was chained, abused, mocked, left to rot. And when I gave her the dignity every living being deserves, when I treated her like she mattered, you call it theft? His voice rose, carrying across the desert. What kind of galaxy have we built where kindness is criminal? The law is clear. The law is wrong. Kael was shaking now. 3 months of fear and anger and desperate hope finally breaking through. You want to know why humans keep surviving? Why we keep existing despite being weak, slow, powerless? It's because we remember something the rest of you forgot. We remember that strength isn't about power. It's about who you protect, what you're willing to sacrifice, how you treat the vulnerable. He looked at Lysara, at Maya, at Ash. I'm a janitor. I clean your toilets and fix your machines and live in a closet, because that's all humans are allowed. But I gave this girl her legs back. I gave my daughter a sister. I gave a dying dog a home. And if that makes me a criminal in your eyes? He turned back to the officer. Then I'm guilty. Shoot me if you want, but you'll have to do it in front of my daughter. You'll have to look a 7-year-old human child in the eye and explain why mercy deserves death. Silence. The soldiers were still. The officer's weapon hadn't lowered, but it hadn't fired either. Then from behind them, a new voice. Stand down. Everyone turned. An older human man was approaching, flanked by more humans, colonists by the look of them, wearing practical clothes and carrying tools instead of weapons. The man had gray hair, sun-weathered skin, and eyes that had seen too much. He stopped beside Kael, looked at the Vrex officer. This is New Haven territory. Human settlement. By Coalition charter, you have no jurisdiction here without local authorization, which you don't have. This man is a fugitive. This man is under New Haven protection, as are his dependents. The old man's voice was steel. You want them? Take it up with Coalition High Command. Until then, get off our planet. The standoff lasted eternal seconds. Then the officer lowered its weapon. This isn't over. Sure it is, the old man said. You just don't know it yet. The soldiers retreated. Vehicles departed. Desert silence returned. The old man turned to Kael, studied him. You Thorn? Yeah. Heard about you. Word travels even to the outer rim. Human who stood between a Vrex guard and a crippled alien girl, who stole medical supplies to save a dog, who burned every bridge to keep his family together. He held out his hand. Name's Carson. I run New Haven. And I gotta say, son, you're exactly the kind of crazy we need here. Kael took his hand. You're protecting us? Protecting you? Hell no, Carson grinned. I'm recruiting you. We need people who know how to fix things, who care more about doing right than playing safe. New Haven's building something here, a place where species doesn't matter, where broken things get repaired instead of discarded. He looked at Lysera. You any good with hydroponics? She blinked. Yes? My people were farmers before. Great, you're hired. He pointed at Maya, need schooling. We've got other kids here, actual teachers, not just data pads. And that dog looks like it could use a job. We have livestock that needs protecting. I don't understand, Kael said slowly. Why would you? Because mercy isn't a human disease, Carson interrupted. It's a human strength. And out here on the rim, we remember that. We remember what it means. To take care of each other. He gestured at the domed settlement in the distance. Welcome to New Haven, Thorn family. You're home. 3 weeks later, the coalition sent investigators, not soldiers this time, bureaucrats, 3 of them, representing different species' interests, carrying data pads and legal documents and expressions of professional boredom. They wanted to interview Kael, assess Lysera's condition, verify that New Haven wasn't harboring criminals. Carson let them in. On one condition, the interview would be public, in the settlement's central square, with all of New Haven's 300 residents watching. The bureaucrats agreed, confident in their authority, their rules, their paperwork. They weren't ready for what came next. The square was packed. Humans mostly, but also a handful of other species, outcasts, refugees, those who'd found their way to New Haven because nowhere else would have them. Kael stood in the center, Maya beside him, Lysera on his other side. Ash sat at Maya's feet, alert and watchful. The lead investigator, a tall, elegant species Kael didn't recognize, activated its recorder. Kael Thorn, you stand accused of multiple violations of coalition law. How do you plead? Guilty, Kael said simply. Murmurs through the crowd. The investigator looked satisfied. You admit your crimes? I admit I broke your laws, yeah. Then this is straightforward. You will be fined. Your dependent alien will be reassigned to approved care and… No. The investigator paused. I'm sorry? I said no, you're not taking her. You're not punishing me. You're not enforcing your laws here. Mr. Thorn, you cannot simply refuse. Watch me. Kael's voice was calm but absolute. See? I've been thinking about this, about why you're here. It's not about justice. If you cared about justice, you'd have arrested the Vrex merchant who chained a disabled girl in the rain and laughed, while people mocked her. It's not about law. If you cared about law, you'd have prosecuted the weapons facility that destroyed Lysera's legs and gave her cheap cybernetics to hide their liability. This is about control, about making sure humans know their place. That is absurd. Is it? Kael looked at Lysera. Tell them. Tell them what happened when you tried to report your injuries, when you asked for help. Lysera's voice was steady. I was told my species had no legal standing, that we'd forfeited our rights when we allowed the Vrex to conquer us, that if I wanted medical care, I should have been born to a species worth protecting. Silence in the square. And you, Kael continued, turning to the investigators. You enforce that system. You make sure the powerful stay powerful and the broken stay broken. You call it law. I call it cruelty with paperwork. Mr. Thorn, your emotional appeals. This isn't an appeal. This is a statement. Kael stood straighter. I'm a human. Weakest species in the coalition. Slowest, least advanced. Bottom of every hierarchy. But I did something none of you did. I saw someone suffering and I helped. Not because there was profit in it. Not because it was legal. Because it was right. He looked around at the gathered crowd. At the watching faces, human and alien alike. At the settlement they'd built from nothing. You want to know why humans keep surviving? Keep existing despite being crushed under your laws and your contempt, and your absolute certainty that we don't matter? It's because we remember something simple, something so basic that your advanced civilizations forgot it. And what is that? The investigator asked, tone dripping condescension. We remember that power without mercy is just tyranny. That strength without compassion is just cruelty. That advancement without kindness is just empty. His voice softened. My wife died because human ships don't get safety regulations. Because we don't matter enough to protect. I couldn't save her. But I could save Lysara. Could save Ash. Could give my daughter a family that shows her mercy isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes strength worth having. He took Maya's hand. Lysara's hand. Stood with his family, his strange, impossible chosen family, and faced the representatives of galactic power without flinching. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to tell your superiors that New Haven is, under human jurisdiction and we don't recognize your authority over our people. And if you try to force the issue, he smiled and it was fierce and unyielding. You'll find out exactly how dangerous humans can be when you threaten the things we love. You're threatening coalition officials? I'm stating facts. We've survived everything the galaxy threw at us. We'll survive you too. Carson stepped forward. He's right. And he's not alone. Other colonists moved forward, forming a wall of bodies between the investigators and Kael's family, human and non-human alike. New Haven stands with the thorns. You want them? You go through all of us. The investigators looked at the crowd, at the unified front, at the absolute certainty in hundreds of pairs of eyes. The lead investigator deactivated its recorder. This is not over. Yeah, Kael said quietly. It is. You just haven't realized it yet. They left. The crowd dispersed. Life returned to normal, or what passed for normal in a settlement built on the principle that mercy mattered more than law. That night, while Maya and Ash slept, Lysara found Kael sitting outside staring at the stars. You were magnificent, she said, sitting beside him. I was terrified. That too, she smiled. But you stood up to them. For me, for us. Had to, your family. I'm not human. Neither is Ash, doesn't make him less family. Kael looked at her. You saved yourself, Lysara. I just gave you the tools. The courage was all yours. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I wish my people could see this. Could see what humans are really like. Maybe then they'd understand what we lost when we gave up on mercy. Maybe someday they will. Galaxy's changing, slowly, but it's changing. They sat together, two survivors watching stars that had seen everything and judged nothing. 6 months later, the settlement had grown. Word spread about New Haven, about the human colony that accepted anyone, fixed anything, and asked only that you contribute what you could. More refugees arrived. More outcasts. More broken things seeking repair. Kael ran the machine shop now. Lysara oversaw the hydroponic farms. Maya attended school with 15 other children of various species. Ash. Ash was basically the settlement's mascot, beloved by everyone, spoiled rotten. They had a real house. 2 rooms, an actual kitchen, space to breathe. It was more than Kael had ever imagined possible. But today wasn't about the present. Today was about the future. Lysara stood in the square, the same square where Kael had faced down coalition investigators wearing clothes that actually fit, her cybernetic leg gleaming with fresh maintenance, her organic leg supported by the brace. Kael had built and rebuilt and perfected over months of careful work. Around her stood a crowd, New Haven's entire population, and at the front, holding a datapad, was Carson. Lysara of the Sereni, he said formally. You came to us broken, discarded, told you were worthless, but you rebuilt yourself, with help, with family, with stubborn refusal, to accept the galaxy's verdict on your value. And now you stand here whole and free, asking to make a choice no one thought you'd have the right to make. He looked down at the datapad. By the authority vested in me as New Haven's administrator, and in accordance with Coalition Charter Section 12, I hereby grant your petition. As of this moment, you are no longer a registered dependent. You are a citizen of New Haven, of humanity. Lysara's eyes filled with tears. I'm allowed. You're allowed, Carson confirmed. Welcome home, citizen. The crowd erupted. Cheering, applause, joy. Maya rushed forward and tackled Lysara in a hug. Ash barked approval, and Kael just smiled, watching his family celebrate, thinking about how far they'd come from that rain-soaked market where everything started. Later, after the celebration, after the meal, After Maya finally fell asleep with Ash curled against her, Lysara found Kael in the workshop. "Can't sleep?" he asked, looking up from the servo he was repairing. "Too happy to sleep." She sat on his workbench, careful of the tools. "I'm a citizen, Kael. I have rights. Legal standing. I can own property, make contracts, vote in settlement decisions. Things I never thought I'd have again. You earned them. No, you gave them to me when you stood between me and that guard, when you risked everything to fix my legs, when you made me part of your family." She wiped her eyes. "I was taught that humans were weak, primitive, beneath us. But you showed me that strength isn't about power or advancement, or any of the things the galaxy values. It's about choosing mercy when cruelty is easier, about protecting the vulnerable when abandoning them is safer, about building families from broken pieces and calling it home. Lysara, let me finish," she smiled through tears. "My species is almost gone, scattered, enslaved, destroyed. But maybe some of us will find our way here. We'll learn from humans what we forgot. We'll remember that mercy isn't weakness, and when they do, when my people rebuild, we'll remember this. We'll remember a human janitor who saved a crippled alien girl because his daughter asked him why no one was helping. We'll remember that humanity gave us back our dignity when our own kind threw us away." Kael's throat was tight. "I just did what felt right." "I know, that's what makes it matter." She slid off the workbench, stood on her repaired legs, and hugged him. "Thank you for everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For fixing me when I was broken. For teaching Maya that mercy is strength. For showing the galaxy what humanity really means." He hugged her back. This alien girl who'd become his daughter in all the ways that mattered. "Thank you for letting us." That night, Kael stood outside their house, their real house, with real walls and real doors, watching 3 moons rise over New Haven. Maya slept inside, peaceful. Lysara had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from celebration. Ash was sprawled across both of them, protective even in sleep. His family, his strange, impossible, perfect family. Somewhere out there the galaxy turned. Species competed for power. The strong crushed the weak. Laws protected the powerful and bound the vulnerable. It was the same as it had always been. But here, in this tiny settlement on the edge of nowhere, something different was growing. Something that valued mercy over might. That fixed what was broken instead of discarding it. That built families from outcasts and called it strength. The galaxy would change, slowly, painfully, one saved life at a time. Because that's what humans did. They remembered that mercy wasn't a disease. It was a cure. And Kael Thorne, widower and janitor and father, and friend, he was patient, enough to wait for the rest of the galaxy to catch up. He looked at the stars, thought of his wife, and whispered, "I think we're doing okay." The stars didn't answer. They never did. But inside the house, Maya stirred in her sleep, smiled and murmured, "Love you, Papa. Love you, Lysara." And that was answer enough. In the end, the galaxy didn't remember the powerful. It remembered those who loved the broken back to wholeness, one impossible mercy at a time.